Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a very special episode here. It is the Reddit League Season 3 reveal show. I'm joined as always by my co-caster Calamity, and today we have a special guest. Radox is back. How are you?
Hey, nice to be back for this season reveal show. It's quite a special one, so that's great.
Yeah, I think the last time we had you was the last reveal show. We
Was
managed to
it?
get you.
Oh, I'm not sure if I got on one more time, but yeah, I might not have.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, we had lots of guests last time. We hope to do the same again. Calamity, how are you doing?
Pretty good, yeah. I was already worried I wouldn't be able to, or I wouldn't get to say anything, but yeah, I'm good.
No worries. I wouldn't skip you. Yeah, so we're gonna just break down the league for you, all of you who might be new, how it works, then run through all the divisions with all the names. Fixture list has not been released yet, so we'll maybe give that a little bit of a treatment on its own. And then we'll wrap it up with the maps that we'll be playing this season, which is definitely something to stick around for because there's quite a few interesting ones that have been drawn in the selection process. So to start with, we'll jump into some rules and regulations. This time, the week is slightly shifted. I think last time we started on a Monday and ran till Sunday, and this time we're starting on Wednesday, going till the following Tuesday. Players still get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw. Draws are scores within 100 points of each other. Bonus points for getting a 25K, a perfect game, and an extra point for being in the top 50 of your division if you weren't a winner. Some of those losers getting a chance to pick up an extra point here or there for good performances. Players are given a yellow card for their first missed match, and then on their second match, they are removed with a red card, and the standings adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, just to butt in there a bit, because I'm not actually sure if Schmingo has fully decided on that yet, but from what I could gather from discussions about this in the last season, it will probably be changed so that while all the matches will be voided, your own score on these maps will still count. So if you got a 25K, you will still get a bonus point. So just to, and as well as your score will probably still count for the score difference, just so that it doesn't matter too much which map your voided match was.
Okay, well then moving on to the time limits for each division. Division 1 starts with 3 minutes and then 30-second increments as we go down, finishing with Division 5 having a full 5 minutes to complete their challenge. Pretty standard. Nothing changed here, I think,
yeah,
Calamity.
Same time limits, just with the new addition of a 5th division. We just had to add 30 seconds to Division 4. That's it.
Well, then, what you all really wanted to see, I'm sure, let's jump right into who's in which division. And we have lots of newcomers, as well as those promoted and relegated players to take into consideration. And, of course, a few absentees who will not be rejoining us. Maybe we'll just run through those real quickly. Some notable people not returning. Geography challenges from Division 1, as well as Comte Bilou. Yellow Skarmory as well from Division 3.
He was Division 2, but relegated, so
it
depends on what you want to go for there.
Yeah, he was relegated, but so he will not be returning, as well as a few others, Wolf Trekker, I believe, and Ed Boros also not returning for this season. It's a bit of a letdown to lose those people, but life goes on, I guess. So
we've got plenty of new people coming in to replace them.
Plenty of new people to replace them, and some very high caliber as well. So the competition won't be worse off for sure. Let's jump into Division 1 here. Pretty much probably one of the least changed divisions. 3 newcomers at the bottom there. You can see their names in red. Calamity, how's Division 1 shaping up, our top division here?
Yeah, Division 1 will be very exciting this year and probably very close as well, especially if you look at or if you compare the people that dropped out. Compilu not very competitive last season. He struggled a lot with anything that wasn't world maps. And also Verdok had a pretty bad season for him. And they'll be replaced by Mr. Blue, who, well, dominated the whole league pretty much last year, and probably would have already done well in Division 1 too if he, hadn't qualified for Division 2 in the preseason. And added to that, you've got Radu, who's back in Division 1 this year after getting relegated from it in Season 1. So he'll probably want to prove that he deserves to be here. And Giovanni as well is the third promotee, who is also a very good player. The newcomers will be interesting to see, because I've seen Boxer and Aglu and Orpheus in various challenges before around, the community, and they've always done very well. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see how they do over a whole season. And it might be interesting, or it might be a tough season for people such as Schludi or Kevin Kroner, who were newcomers last season and who did well on occasion, but weren't the most consistent. And I think Kevin Kroner got a bit lucky even in the end that he didn't have to go into that relegation playoff game. And it might be very tough for them to stay up in Division 1 this year. But yeah, we'll wish them luck, and maybe they can surprise us. And yeah, at the top, Raidman, Simi, probably the two favorites again. And we'll see. I'm actually interested in if Equinox and Magyaron can repeat their playoff finish, because I'm not convinced, but they can prove me wrong.
Yeah, with the return of Simi, this is our first shot at having a repeat winner. The winner from Season 1, who I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's Topotic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Topotic, that's right. Did not play in Division in Season 2, and he's not here again in Season 3. So Simi is the first champion with a chance to defend his title. Yeah, Radox, any thoughts from you here? And who do you think might be in those playoff run at the end of the season?
Yeah, I would say definitely Simi should make it again. It's hard to imagine him not making that. Who else? Yeah, I mean, Raidman Mucha could make it. I mean, there's so many people. Mr. Blue is hard to estimate, because he did not lose a game last season in Division 2, so he might actually be really good. I don't know. It's hard to see, because last season he had an easier comparison. So it's hard to imagine. There's so many good players.
Yeah, I definitely think of the promoted, Mr. Blue has the best chance to stay up. Radu and Giovanni having been relegated in the past already, but with a few newcomers, as well as Kevin Kroner and Schludi there, who barely stayed up, like Calamity said. I think the middle of the pack is just really rough, and who's going to be able to just get out of that and make the playoffs, and who's just going to not quite live up to it and fall down, is going to be very, very close.
Yeah,
it might come down to a few hundred points over the entire season even.
Yeah, something I'd also like to mention here on Mr. Blue specifically is that we know he's got a very meticulous and slow play style. So the 30 seconds less that he's got in Division 1 might affect him the most out of any of the competitors here.
Yeah, true. It'd be really interesting to see how he adapts to 30 seconds less. Though it's a good point, because he did seem to struggle a little bit with the time limits in Formula G and the sprint races sometimes. So we'll have to definitely see how that works out for him there. But of the newcomers, anybody in particular, Radox, stand out for you here?
The only player that I've seen around regularly, and I think he's also a Geoguessr player, is Boxer. I know he's pretty good, but I don't really have that comparison to the other people, so it's quite hard to imagine how he pairs up. And the other two, I don't know really well. So yeah, they might be dark horses, or they might struggle to survive in this division. It's hard to imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen some really insane score from Boxer in non-moving games, but I don't think I've seen him play a lot of moving games before, so that'll be interesting for me to see how he does. And yeah, Orpheus took part in Formula G, but yeah, I haven't seen him around before that. and Einaglu as well. I've seen him pretty much pop up on challenges here or there, like the past 1-2 months, but not at all before that. So I don't really have much to say about either of them as well.
Yeah, well, definitely Division One shaping up to be the kind of the pinnacle that we all hope it will be with all those good players. But Division Two, moving down a step, is not in the least, no less competitive. There we go, than Division One, with the likes of Chicago and Verdoc dropping down from Division One from last season. Only one newcomer in this division, the Real Clyde. Radox, I'll give you first shot at this division. What's your take, given that you and Calamity are both in it? So,
yeah, that's gonna be a tough battle. We're both probably gonna be on the lower end. And
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, we'll see about that. On the top side, I think like Chicago Geographer is probably like maybe the favorite of this division, even though I mean it's almost like in Division 1 where the top is quite competitive with Verdoc, Tolimpala, Aistaru, maybe Teskutak, maybe M the Basement, I don't know. Guelo Wizard did also quite well last season, so it's hard to imagine who's gonna be at the top. And yeah, at the bottom, maybe some of the newcomers and myself will need to try to survive, as I always do in the relegation game. I always go there and win. So
yeah, two for two, staying up in Division Two. So got a pretty good record going for you there. Calamity, you seem to be more optimistic about your chances to stay up in Division 2.
Yeah, this division is going to be insanely competitive. I think even more competitive than Division 1. Maybe not like at the same level, but much closer. I think it's really hard to tell who's going to be at the top here. Because we've got, especially in Division 2, we've got a lot of people who practice a lot for their matches. We've got Tall Impala, we've got Ice. I know Seppo's practiced a lot in the past. M the Basement as well. And yeah, it's just very hard to predict. And it'll also depend a bit, I think, on how much practicing is going to help you in certain countries. But we'll take a look at that once we talk about the maps later on. So far, I still haven't had a season where I didn't have the highest overall score in my division. So I'll try to hold on to that record, but I probably won't be able to if I look at some of the other people in this division. But yeah, I think for me, it'll come down a lot to whether I make whether I make a lot of mistakes in my games. I think purely based on skill, I should be able to stay in the division at least. But yeah, I've been prone to making mistakes in the past, so I'll try to limit those as much as I can in this season.
Yeah, I was going to mention, if you didn't, that this division is packed with people who practice. We know that about Tall Impala and a few others. They'll put in the time, and if it's a map that you can learn and you can improve on within a couple of days, they will do it, and that'll give them a significant advantage over whoever they face in that week. So you probably don't want to go up against them on a country map.
Yeah. On
a world map, it's a little bit harder to practice, so that you might get lucky to face them on that. We'll see when the fixtures come out who's the lucky individuals who don't have to play them. And Tall Impala coming off a very good season in Formula G. The rules are very different. They have more time, but he's definitely in form at least. But M the Basement definitely struggling the last couple weeks in Formula G, as well as just some other Geoguessr competitions. So he'll be looking to change that run of form as we head into the Reddit League. Anything about the Real Clyde? I don't know much about him.
I have
popped in and out of a few challenges.
Yeah, I've literally never seen him before, apart from the Reddit League preseason. That being said, his Geoguessr name, I think, is Cameron, which is like a very non-noticeable name. So I might have seen him around a bit, but I just haven't noticed him really.
Okay, well then let's jump on down to Division 3. 3 new drivers here: Shumio Beloza, Skydiving Ferret, and Ohm1234 Car. Well, that's a good name to have to cast. The newcomers though from Division 4, Max FI, Closed 24/7, and Patriots. Closed and Max, they did really, really well. Closed winning Formula G and Max finishing in the top 5. It's going to be really interesting to see if they can carry that form where they outperform people like Simi, Mr. Blue, Ice, M the Baseman, U Calamity, who are in higher divisions. And their time limit isn't too far off. It's a little bit faster. So they might be down a little bit in terms of those points, but it'd be interesting if they can carry that form over. Your thoughts on that, Calamity?
Yeah, this could be a division that's like basically set up for surprises. I think the people coming down from Division 2 might not be the best depending on how it goes. We know Slovak goalie promoted from Division 3 in Season 1, but he then didn't really have time to practice in Division 2, and he pretty much bombed that division. I think he got like 4 points or something in that. And Benica as well, he had some good games, but very inconsistent. And I think he struggled a lot on certain country maps. Whereas on the other hand, as you said, Closed and Max did very well in Formula G, but Patriots was the one who got the most points in Division 4 last season. And all of them did very well in their division. Max had one occasion, I think, or 2 even, where he got unlucky with internet connection or things like that during the regular season, so he had to go through the playoffs, but he won those. So I think it wouldn't be surprising if we see one of these 3 guys, with Patriots, Closed, and Max, go straight through to Division 2. But at the same time, you've got some strong players from Division 3 last year still remaining. Hugo Alvaro did very well and only lost his promotion playoff game to me there. We'll see how Fierce, Redirect, and Freckles do. Fierce has been a bit inconsistent last season. He's shown some good performances, but struggled in some others. And Redirect and Freckles especially, also quite similar to me, prone to making like one mistake and then 5K'ing all the other rounds, but it doesn't matter. He's still gonna lose that game. And yeah, the newcomers are also interesting here. I've never heard of Ohm1234 Car. He's going to have to tell us how to pronounce that. It always reminds me a bit of Omastar. Don't know if that's, the comparison you'd want to go for. But yeah, Ferret has done very well in the preseason from what I've seen. And Shumio Beloso, he struggled quite a bit in Formula G, depending on the maps we had. Like, he did really well in some of them and did really poorly in others. So for him, it might depend a lot on what the maps are that we'll face, and how well he does on them in particular.
Yeah. Redox.
Yeah, in this division, it's the first division where I could really see newcomers being kind of like dark horses. Potentially with Shumi and Skydiving Ferret, especially. As Calamity also said, I don't know the other person very well from playing. But yeah, potentially they could do better than we expect. And yeah, I think Hugo Alvarez kind of feels like it's a little bit of my favorite here that I could see being promoted. But also like Patriots and Closed and even Max FI are very hard to imagine. They might be really at the top even. It's possible, I think. So yeah. And Slovak goalie is hard to estimate because he had a really good first season and then a bad second season. So I'm not sure what I should think about him. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting division as well.
Yeah, I think for both Division 2 and Division 3, but especially Division 3, the chance of getting promoted again after being relegated is really slim. You're dropping down into very tough competition, and with players who really not just didn't do well in the division above them, but really struggled. I think Benica was towards the bottom of D2, and
I mean, he
Slovak
got
goalie
relegated,
was,
so yeah.
yeah. But like Slovak goalie was dead last
Yeah.
in Division 2, and he really struggled. So unless he can really change things around, people like Patriots, Close, or Max are going to be, biting at the bit to try to take that place and get promoted again. So it's going to be a really fierce fight, and they can't, count on their Division 2 kind of pedigree to just boost them back up again next season. They're going to have to prove it all over again in Division 3, definitely. Yeah, Freckles had a pretty rough season. He was down from Division 2 from 1.
Mm-hmm.
So he's dropped and then was almost relegated to D4, but just stayed up. So he's going to be somebody who wants to definitely turn things around and be at least mid-table here if he wants to look at a return for Division 2 anytime soon. So, yeah. Okay, well, for Division 4 and 5, they're split into 2 different groups, A and B, each with 10 players, so 20 players total. So let's take a look at Division 4A to begin with. Quite a few names here. Wakelok and MD Spaceman being the 2 relegated from Division 3 last time. And then quite a few newcomers and quite a few returnees. So pretty much 50-50 here, Calamity.
Yeah. This is the first division where I'm like, I don't know really a lot about the newcomers at all. And there's quite a few of them. Starting from here, you'll see more and more newcomers trickling in. Probably it's going to be hard to define a favorite. You're probably looking at the likes of Mabos, who finished second in the playoffs last season in Division 4, or Wakelok, who did pretty well I say pretty well. He still got relegated from Division 3, but he wasn't like completely out of the competition. He, made it to the relegation playoff and lost to a very strong performance from Freckles there. And then you're kind of looking at some of the newcomers, maybe Barry Fishy Bear, know him from Formula G. He's had some very good performances in there, but also some where he just disappeared into the middle of the pack somewhere. And apart from that, I should just mention here, the newcomers from here in Division 4 are the people that placed 8th to 17th in the preseason. We're looking at like very small margins there. 8th place is a guy from Division 4B, which we'll talk about later, with 106,000 points over preseason, and 17th place was Poon Noob with 100,000 points. So very close, everything there. So I don't think you can judge them, like differentiate between them based on their preseason games a lot. But yeah, as I've said, LCN, Bath Jets, and Poon Noob, I haven't heard of them before preseason. Headache Me, I've seen around a bit, but yeah, way too little to judge him on his Geoguessr skills yet. But yeah, it could be a very open division. It could be very, very close, but at the same time, if some of the people struggle, it could also be quite quickly decided quite quickly. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Redux, do you think that Wakelok and MD Spaceman are going to have a pretty easy time getting back up into Division 3 out of this, or is it going to be pretty tight again?
I think they will certainly do well, but it's getting harder to predict things in Division 4A. It is possible, but also there's Nitnerok and Mavos as well. So, and maybe, I know H-Town a little bit. So, I don't know. And and there's 5 newcomers here. So it's harder to predict. I certainly don't see them at the bottom. So,
Yeah.
I
definitely think that like Barry Fish Bear is probably of the newcomers the best one. His performance in Formula G kind of giving him a little bit of momentum, and also just we kind of have seen him around. He knows about competitions and whatnot. But yeah, I think was Mabos and Nitnerok both have been relegated from Division 3 in the past, correct?
Nitnerok has. Mabos, I'm not completely sure.
Okay. But yeah, definitely harder to call at this level. They're all very close. I think that in Division 1, 2, and 3, it really comes down to who's the best on the day and who had time to practice. But in Division 4 and 5, I really think the map is more important, right? If you get a country somebody is familiar with, or the world maps where everybody is going to be stronger in general, in the preseason, the newcomers as well as the people who have been around in Division 4 and 5 do significantly better, like 1,000 or 2,000 points better in a world map than on a country map. So like I said, like the top 3 divisions, it's going to be, who's doing well on the day, but the map is going to really play a big factor. Who you play when, I have somebody good on a country map, I could steal it from them. But then again, if they're better than you on the average and you get them on a world map, you probably can't make up those points. So the fixtures are going to be really exciting to look at, and try to call from there, I think, for these 2 divisions towards the bottom. Do you kind of agree with that, Calamity Radox, or?
Yeah, I can see that, especially the point about country maps, and that down here they might have a bigger influence, because just with the way preseason works now, a change I much appreciate, by the way, because I think it's much better like that, where you already have to prove that you can play country maps. Quite logically, the people that are further down, and maybe even less so the top qualifiers from like Division 4, but especially if you go down to Division 5, most of the people we'll get there will be people that didn't really practice much for preseason. It's just a random browser game, and it's just a tournament. Who needs practice? So especially for those divisions, I think it'll be very important on how well you do innately on those maps, rather than because not a lot of people will be practicing anyway.
Yeah, it's a worthy point. Yeah, Redox.
Yeah, I think it's possible that the map is more important, but I could also see that the skill difference of the players gets somewhat. I mean, the skill difference between top and bottom players gets a little bit higher towards the lower divisions.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's a good point. I think people like Wakelock, MD Spaceman, Mabos, Berryfish Bear, even Nitnarok are probably almost a whole. They could be another division above the other people coming into it. But I mean, these are new people. We don't really know them too well. Maybe we're not giving them enough, justice here. Sorry if you're watching, but we just don't know you. So prove to us, make us eat our words here, and show us how good you are, and fight for that title challenge and get into Division 3 next season. But let's just look at the other half of Division 4 here. You'll finally see my name. So way down here, along with the likes of Pork Steaks, Deep Thought, Noisel, and GRH also returning, but some new people, Steal This Nick, Geo Squad, and Polybos, things like that. It's Deep Thought. I definitely think is someone to watch down here. Radox, any thoughts from you here on 4B?
Yeah, definitely. Deep Thought is kind of someone that could be on the top. Pork Steaks as well. I know he's kind of an expert in the US maps, and we have at least one, so that's going to be an advantage for him. And besides that, it's some new names. Hard to imagine how they will do. And even yourself, I don't know. Last season I had the hope that making this video will actually make you much better, but that maybe that kind of thought was not so logic, and it actually investing much time in making videos is maybe what actually doesn't make you better.
Are you insulting him in a very roundabout way?
So,
I think Radox has a point he wants to make, but he wants to put it as gently as possible.
You're shit.
But
Yeah. And then there's like two Swiss guys, Neusel and Pastetli. Pastetli is Swiss food for those who don't know. And yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see them battling it out.
what
on
is it?
who's becoming the third best Swiss players for now.
What is Pashetli?
What?
You said it was a Swiss food. What kind of food is it?
It's kind of like, it's hard to describe. It's like made of wheat, I think, and it's like very dry. It's like it's like formed so you can put sauce in it, and like, for example, mushrooms, meat, and something. Yeah, but if you Google it, you can see it.
Okay, I'll go take a look at those pictures. But yeah, I mean, I won't disagree with you strongly, Radox. I know being busy and doing other things does make it hard to practice. I do feel like I got very unlucky in my matchups last season. Like I was beating in scores, I was beating the people, just not on the week I played them. So like there's several competitors last time in Division 4 where I beat them every single week, if you look at our 2 scores, except for the week that I played them. So it was kind of like, yeah, kind of hard done by the 1v1 kind of format, I feel. But that's the format. I gotta get better. So we'll see how I do. I definitely think Steal This Nick is going to be one of those dark horses from the new people who might give a shot at getting to those promotion spots for me here. Calamity, anything from you?
Yeah, definitely agree with that on Steal This Nick. The problem I see there is, as far as I remember in Formula G, he did very well in some countries. Obviously, in his home country, Italy, he got a perfect score there, and I think he got a perfect score in one other country as well. But he used pretty much all the time of his 5 minutes always, and he's probably not too big of an issue here because he'll still have 4.5 minutes compared to the 5 from Formula G. But he might struggle if he gets further up in Reddit League. And he's also like, he's come in 16th in preseason, so he was technically the worst out of the newcomers of this division. But yeah, it might be someone to look out for, especially for the Italy leg of the season. Little spoiler there for the maps we're going to play. And yeah, as Radok said, poor person who has to play pork steaks on the DS-centric maps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like my personal favorites for this division are Deep Thought, surely. I'd say Nakiro as well. I've seen some very good performances from him. And then maybe it'll be Neusel, maybe pork steaks, depending on how much he has time to practice. And yeah, then there's like 3 people in the middle there, the other 3 newcomers I haven't talked about that I have never heard of. So they might surprise us and put in some good performances too. And maybe even you can stay in the division at least.
Yeah. I don't think I could be relegated, but it's really hard because with Division 4, if it stayed the same from last time, the top place is an automatic promotion, and 2 and 3 go into a 4-person playoff race for 1 promotion slot. So you're either, did it change or
no? Last season it was 2nd to 5th, so it was an 8-person playoff. But yeah, I've
okay, maybe I'm.
I know Schmingu said that a lot of people didn't necessarily like that playoff system, but I haven't actually, like, I've kind of forgotten to ask him about whether he changed it now for this season or not. I could see it still being the same somewhat. It might have changed in terms of the amount of people to get to a playoff. But we'll have to see. We'll definitely tell you once week 1 comes around and the full rules have been decided upon and released in a document.
So I mean, if I'm realistic, my hope is to get into one of those playoff spots. With people like Steal This Nick and Deep Thought and Pork Steaks, taking top is probably a little bit of a stretch for me. But I definitely hope to be at least in the top half of the table. I think that's a realistic goal that I can try to achieve, despite what Radox wants to say about my performances. So, yeah. Anyway, let's jump down to the final division, Division 5, with a look at Division 5A. Anna NZ and the One Wheel Girl drop down into this one from Division 4, mostly just because of making up space, and they were the lowest players of 4 who dropped down into Division 5, the new division. Other than that, though, a fresh field of newcomers, lots of people, some of which we've heard of, some of which we have never seen before. So yeah, Calamity, anything you can say here?
Division 5 has at least, compared to Division 5, well, Division 5A compared to Division 5B has at least a lot of newcomers that I've seen like somewhere before, glimpses of them. We've got, of course, Anna and Zed and that one weird girl retaining their position in Reddit League from last season. Obviously, dropping down from Division 4 might be a bit of an easier time for them here. I still don't think that they're likely to get promoted back to Division 4 here, but they might, not have to fight against or in the bottom positions in the division. You can also see here, like a lot of the newcomers. I've seen Diesel around a bit. Apart from that, I've seen Hexalt, Jake Lyons. I've seen them around a bit. As you said before, have you said that before? I don't think that was on the recording actually, but that was earlier. Diffs has played parts of like the Formula G2 iteration, but then stopped playing them. So it'll be interesting to see how he does here if he actually plays the full season. For a lot of these players here, you could see that in their preseason runs, the country maps were the ones they struggled with. Marcus Fenn there at the bottom was the player with the lowest score in the preseason, but he got like 2,000 points in Malaysia. And if he had, had an average performance there of like, let's say 10 to 15,000, he would have been a lot higher as well. Still Division 5, obviously. But I don't think we have like a terrible player in here. I don't think we have anyone that you can say, okay, he's definitely not getting more than like 3 points. So even in Division 5, it could still get, we could still see some high quality matchups. And especially with 5 minutes of time compared to the 3-minute preseason games. That's a very big difference. So it'll be interesting for sure. If I had to put some favorites up, I'd say my favorite is probably Diesel. Not only because he was the highest from the preseason out of everyone here, but also because I've seen him around a bit, as I've said before. And yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Redox.
Yeah, certainly a lot of new names, and I think I really love that more people are joining the Reddit League, even if they know that they are not Division 1 players. So I think that's very cool. And I'm a little bit surprised Anansi is in Division 5 now. I think he's too good for that. So I don't know. I could see him going up. Yeah, the Diesel is also one of the names that I've seen sometimes. So I'm not sure how good he is. He certainly is at least a decent player. And maybe that one weird girl is also gonna get a lot of wins now. That there should be an easier competition, but it's hard to imagine with all those newcomers. Yeah, I think the only ones that I've seen before besides that are Jay Lyons, as I said, Diesel, and maybe Marcus Fenn. I'm not sure. I've seen a Marcus before, but it might have been another one. So yeah, hard to predict. Could be a lot of surprises, but overall, Ananzi should certainly do well, I would say.
Yeah, just a lot of new names that need to prove themselves on a stage like Reddit League, so we can get familiar with them and see what they can do. Calamity, you made a good point that there are no bad players. Like if you look at their preseason performances, they tend to have bad maps, maybe, where they barely break the 10K mark or just maybe 12K mark, but they also have maps where they can get over 20,000. Some of these people even getting close to 22 or 23,000 on maybe world maps that they're decent at, right? I think he's in the other division, so we'll talk him. But Danny Blondes had almost a perfect score on a world map. Lions here also almost 24K on a world map, and several others 20, 21 plus. So in terms of a general score, especially with a 3-minute timer, that's a pretty decent score. I think for any player playing Geoguessr to shoot for. So just the amount of players and how many good players there are puts them in this lower division. It's not because they're bad players. There's just so many good players. So that's one way to look at it for sure. So we can definitely expect a lot of good matchups from these divisions, even all the way down here in Division 5. So.
And I also think it's important to mention, I've sort of mentioned it a bit before, but there's a big difference between the 3 minutes preseason and the 5-minute season for Division 5. And that might help out some players immensely, and it might not make much of a difference to some players. Like in some country maps, if you don't know where you are after 3 minutes, you probably won't know where you are after 5, depending on how much or how little you know about the country. So I also think, especially with the change to preseason where we now include country maps, it's very hard to compare these newcomers to the established players that came down from Division 4. So that's why I struggled a bit with that. I could imagine NNZ and that one weird girl not having many points in this division, and I could also imagine them like dominating the division. It's really hard to tell how it's going to go.
Yeah, it'd definitely be really interesting to look back after the end of it all and see how those preseason numbers kind of worked out for these people and seeding them in this new division down here, and how competitive it really ends up being. But definitely it's something to watch for. So keep your eyes on these tables, even in Division 5, to see how they're doing, because I think it'll be well worth the watch. So let's take a look at the final division then. 5B, to a few of those names, Papagato and Steven dropping down from Division 4 here as those top 2 spots, just like Division 5A. The rest are brand newcomers, and again, like we've been talking about, kind of a bit all over the place, getting over 20K on some rounds and barely making 10 on others. And with the time difference change, we could definitely see a whole different performance out of some of these players that we haven't seen in the preseason. So a bit hard to call. I think these 2 players, though, Redox, maybe have an even better chance of going back up than Anna NZ and that one weird girl. I don't know if you agree with me or not. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar. I wouldn't say necessarily better, but yeah, about same. It's definitely possible, but overall, like this Division 5B looks very similar to me, like compared to the 5A. We have 2 relegated people that are quite good, decent, expected players. And then there's 2 names that I know, Vincenzo Avantaggiato and Dani Blondes, and the rest I don't know. So it's kind of similar in the way that there could be dark horses hidden, but we don't know.
Yeah. So it makes it exciting. Yeah, Calamity.
Yeah, I think Steven had a bit of an unlucky season last season. As long as I don't remember completely wrong, I think he was in Division 3 in Season 1. Then got relegated to Division 4 and had only got 6 points last season. But I think he's a better player than that, and I think he could get more points. Papagato, I didn't really he didn't really stick in my mind much from last season. I have to be honest there. I don't really know how well he could perform in this. Relatively inconsistent, I think, is the only thing that sort of pops into my head when I think about him. And yeah, I know a bit less about the people in this division compared to Division 5A. As Radek said, those 2 people, Dani Blondes and Vincenzo Avantaggiato, are also the only 2 I've heard about. I think I might have seen Jack Hertzberg somewhere before. I don't know if it was on challenges or somewhere like in Discord or anything like that. And the others, yeah, no idea. They might be good. I just don't know it yet. They'll probably, hopefully, show us throughout the season.
I'm looking forward to it for sure. Okay, well, it's a lot of things to run through, a lot of names, a lot of people to pay attention to, and in the coming weeks for all these divisions. But let's wrap this up with a look. We'll see how brief at the map schedule we have coming up for the Reddit League regular season, at least. I don't think he's released the playoff seeds yet. So this is just the regular season here as we jump into those. For the maps in Reddit League, if you're not familiar, each of the weeks has a region draw pool that is used. And then from that, one country is drawn. So like as you see in number 1, week 1, Americas. So there's a country from the Americas. And this season, it will be Uruguay. We have worldwide, Europe, Asia, US, Canadian states, continents as a whole, as well as Africa, Australia, and New Zealand as different pools and our maps. So yeah, Clem, do you want to give us a rundown on these maps that we're going to be seeing this season?
We're going to be starting off with Uruguay, which is going to be interesting. It's got a lot of very straight roads without much to go off of for pinpointing. And most of the time, you will be able to find some information in 3 minutes that tells you at least the road you're on. But I think that map, especially for the shorter time limits, might come down a lot to just maybe either getting a bit lucky with your pinpointing or just having like very good gut feeling. Especially as well with the way most Uruguayan roads work, as you know, them being very straight. It might also come down to getting a bit lucky with the direction you're going to go in. And as a country as a whole, Uruguay not really the most diverse in terms of landscape and everything like that. So it might come down to just finding a sign the quickest and then making a good pinpoint on the map. Then we switch over to Dams of the World, which I mean, if you're an expert on dams, that might be a good map for you. For everyone else, it's probably just a world map with a bit of a theme to it. You can probably exclude some countries because they won't have many dams in them. I don't know. I'm not an expert. But yeah, for most purposes, just a world map. Then we switch over to Belgium, which similar to Uruguay, not really very, very different if you go from like west to east, north to south. A lot more signs for sure, and probably also a lot easier to pinpoint. But yeah, it will probably come down again to just finding the right signs. And Belgium definitely might be definitely might be is also great. But yeah, definitely going to be a country where practice can help you a ton just by virtue of learning city names and town names that you might recognize when you go into the actual game. Then we go over to the AI-made map by Mr. American Mike. So not the AI-made world map that we've had previously for playoff games, and I'm assuming we'll probably have it again for those, but a different one, which has a few less locations, I think. Still over 10,000, but not like the millions of locations that the other AI-made world map has. Also, as far as I remember, has some very weird locations, some of which I'm not sure if they qualify for Reddit League. Like if you get sort of a trekker view on a boat or something, might be seeded out by Schmingo beforehand. But yeah, apart from that, it's just a normal world map with a bit of a weirder location pool, in my opinion. Then we go over to Cambodia. That will be interesting. Cambodia also, it's not, despite it looks like a country that should be very diverse, but it isn't really that diverse. It's got it's not that big of a country, and a lot of it is just dirt roads through the middle of nowhere, where it might be tough to find a good sign. I've looked at it beforehand a bit today, and there are phone codes you can work with, But in the limited time I tried running through it, like everything in terms of phone numbers that I thought was cell phones. So I don't know yet how useful they're going to be. Also not really the country with the best signage in the world. So yeah, it might, even with the limited differences in landscape, really trying to learn how the landscape looks like everywhere might still be your best shot at, setting yourself up nicely for a good performance. Then we switch over to California, which I do think is a relatively diverse state landscape-wise. It's also relatively big, and relatively well signed even. So I think this is probably one of the easier maps. But as we've had with all sort of US states in the past, it might come down to like a couple of points. We might see a lot of 25Ks there, depending on the time limit and everything like that. And the locations as well. Obviously, that's true for all of the maps. If you get an unlucky seed, the easiest map in the world might not get you a 25K.
We all know that.
Yeah. Then we switch over to Italy, which we've had in Formula G this season as well. And let's just say it's not one of my favorite countries to play Geoguessr in. Probably out of those countries, and here the country I'd have to put in the most practice if I want to get points. But yes, it does have a lot of signs. The only thing is, quite a few of them won't help you much because they'll point you, to towns that are like a couple kilometers away, or to like small provincial roads that, have repeating numbers, and you'd have to zoom in quite far to see them anyway. On the other hand, Italy does have quite a diverse landscape because it's relatively big north-south, and so knowing how it looks like can definitely help you out a bit there, especially because then if you've got a smaller search radius, some of those signs that were previously, not very helpful might turn out to help you after all, because, you can cover a, larger part of the area that you have to look for or to look in.
Yeah.
Then we switch over to islands. I'm not sure. I looked through the Geoguessr maps before. I'm not sure which exact map that is going to be yet. But it sounds like sort of a gimmicky map when you don't think about it much, because you're thinking like, oh, some random islands in the Pacific somewhere. Like, how do I even practice for that? And then you play one of those maps and you remember, oh, like a third of Denmark is island. Oh, Australia is an island. Oh, New Zealand is an island. Oh, like Kamchatka or something like that. Or no, Kamchatka? No, Kamchatka is, I think, not an island, but Yuzhno-Sakhalin, at least, or Sakhalin, the island itself, is. Japan is an island. And the list goes on and on. Yeah. There's a lot of islands that you wouldn't really think of at first. So it might just end up being like a relatively normal seed. And then you'll get like that one random island in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere. But or Pacific, wherever it may be. Just as a curveball there. Then we go over to Bolivia, which doesn't have the most amount of coverage. It's actually relatively sparse there. Might be quite similar to the way Kyrgyzstan played out, in that you're just going to have to remember landscape-wise how certain things look. And then most of the time you just, you've got a relatively limited area to search in based on knowing what the landscape is like and knowing where the coverage is. And from that, you're just going to have to go from there. And then you're going to get a location on the outskirts of La Paz somewhere, and no one's going to be able to pinpoint that in 3 minutes. And yeah, after that, we finished the season off, at least the regular season, in Kenya, which I'm actually quite looking forward to. I was
really excited when I saw it come up.
Yeah, I did Kenya on my personal YouTube series where I try to get 25K in every country of the world, basically. And Kenya was easier than I first expected. Like, I expect most African countries like that to be pretty hard to do that. And Kenya especially is not very well signed, but it turns out you can get a lot of information from like random billboards that tell you the area or tell you the town and everything like that. You have phone numbers or phone codes that help you out. You've got the different Google car that's driven in certain parts of the country and different landscape as well. So there's a lot of different features of Kenya that can help you a lot in getting a good score. And I think that might certainly be a country where practice comes into it a lot.
Well, thank you for that. That's quite a good number of maps to run through. So I'll give you a break and hand it over to Radox and see what his thoughts on this map pool and some of these maps in particular. Radox.
Yeah, I think Calamity already said a lot, so I'm not gonna take a deep look into every map. Yeah, overall, yeah, when I first saw islands, I got really scared. But yeah, now that Calamity explained it a little bit, maybe it's not that bad. One thing that I have to disagree with is that Belgium is all the same, Calamity said. I mean, first of all, we have language difference from north to
that's
south.
true.
And then we have the east or southeast is much more hilly than the coastal area. So even though size-wise it is similar to Uruguay, it is actually quite an interesting country, in my opinion. It's one of those European countries that I thought before I knew it from Geoguessr, I thought, oh, that's not so interesting, but it's actually quite nice and interesting. Yeah, Cambodia, a little bit scary as well. I don't know. California, definitely happy that we get a US state that has a wide variety of landscapes and is very beautiful overall. So that's certainly probably the most amazing US state to play in Geoguessr, I would say, due to that. Then in Asia, of course, I hope for maximum amount of 5 Japanese locations.
I skipped Asia, didn't I, when talking about the maps,
yeah,
now that I think of it. Well, whatever.
Did you skip it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I cannot remember you having said anything, yeah.
Well, you can handle that.
Asia is pretty tough because there's almost like no easy countries. There's Cambodia, there's Indonesia, there's Malaysia, there's Sri Lanka. It's like, there's no easy countries, really.
Well, don't make the mistake I did when I was playing an Asian map earlier, last week or something. When Israel is Asia, the Middle East is Asia. Kyrgyzstan is Asia. So we could have, a very obvious country location because it has Hebrew all over the place. But then you also could be somewhere where it's like, I guess Australia isn't counted, but like, Indonesia, where, oh, great, I'm on an island in the Pacific. Where am I?
Yeah. And also important to not forget, a lot of Russia is Asia as well.
Yeah. I don't know the map.
Make
like,
things better.
Nope.
Yeah. So it's interesting if they include the actual geography and they split the European part of Russia away from the Asian part or not, but
probably
Turkey, I think, right?
Yeah.
Asia. Mm-hmm. So huge variety. I think Asia is decent in the sense that you could really understand the region and country you're in, but pinpointing could be really hard because a lot of Asian countries don't have good signs. The roads aren't well maintained or marked. But you kind of know you're in Southeast Asia or you kind of know you're in Turkey pretty quickly.
Another thing is that given like Asia is really huge and like some of the most western parts have coverage, some of the most eastern parts have coverage. So you might even have a bit more leeway in some countries like Indonesia where you don't just get like 0 points for guessing the wrong island, but you'll get like 2,000-3,000 for it. So that I don't know fully how that will work out yet, because obviously the person who's closer to the Indonesian island is still going to get more points. And it's not much of an issue to get the country right in Asia if you've got like 3 minutes to move around. But if you get it really wrong, if you guess,
you're gonna get
Israel instead of Japan, then you're still going to do worse than like a person who at least got the right Indonesian island right or something like that. Or like Indonesia as a country, but the wrong island. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to islands. It sounds like a really interesting idea for a world map that that will be global. It won't just be a small region. There's islands everywhere from the Caribbean to Asia and all the way down to, you know, south of Chile. Tons of islands down there too, right? So really an interesting chance to see some cool locations. I think it'll just be fun to play. I don't know if I'll do well on it, but I think it's the one I want to play the most. Yeah, and Bolivia and Kenya to round off, definitely practicable, definitely learnable in terms of coverage because there's limited amount of coverage. So a really interesting way to finish the season, because that might be the time where if you're really close, you know, you could make up points in those last 2 weeks because they are practicable. So we could see some people make end of season runs, at least in those 2 weeks, and, you know, and sneak a place or two because of that, by doing a little bit more practice. So definitely an interesting way to finish the season. So I'm happy with the pool. I think there's some great maps in here, and I'm really excited to get into it. So yeah. Well, I think that'll do it for us. We've talked long enough, took up enough of your time here, but I hope you enjoyed this preview of the upcoming season 3 of Reddit League. We looked at all the divisions, all the new names, as well as those coming back, who we think will do a good job, and this very interesting map pool to finish. So yeah, we'll see you all in week 1. We will be covering, like we did last season, with a weekly Reddit League show to run down how everybody did, as well as casting as many matches as we can get to. We'll try to do at least, I think, 2 or 3 a week, and maybe even more privately on separate channels and whatnot. We haven't quite gotten to that, but yeah, definitely make videos, record yourself playing this. All you new people, send us your videos so we can cast them and show off your skills on YouTube. So we'll see you all then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.